Hello everybody and welcome to our story of the week. Now we are learning all about traditional tales at the moment. This is a twist of a traditional tale. What story do you think it is based on? One of our traditional tales? This is a twist. It's called Little Red. Little Red Riding Hood. Well done, we know that story, don't we? So this version is a little bit different. Let's see what happens, shall we? Now, we all must remember, before we start reading, show me your good sitting, your good looking, your good listening, and shh, unless I ask you a question, okay? Right, let's see what happens in the story today. In a time not too long ago and in a land much like our own, there lived a young boy. His name was Thomas, but for some reason everyone called him Little Red. There's Thomas. Why do you think they might have called him Little Red? He's certainly got lots of red things in his room, hasn't he? Everything he owns seems to be red. Little Red's parents owned a cosy inn, and people came from far and wide for a glass of their famous sweet ginger beer. Little Red loved to meet the travellers and hear their tales of dangerous encounters with dashing highwaymen and fearsome wolves. So there's Little Red sitting in the inn with the grown-ups listening to all different tales. One day, Little Red was getting ready to visit his grandma, just like Little Red Riding Hood, as he did every week, with a basket full of delicious treats and a week's supply of ginger beer. Grandma's favourite, declared Little Red as he put the keg of ginger beer in his basket. So there he is in the pantry and he's packing his basket to go and visit his grandma. Can you remember the story of Little Red Riding Hood? That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Little Red put on his much-loved red coat, picked up his basket and set off for Grandma's. As always, his mother warned him, "Don't you wander off the path, not for any reason," for everyone knew that a ferocious and hungry wolf prowled within the forest, and straying from the path would almost certainly mean being eaten. Just like Little Red Riding Hood's mommy said to stick to the main path. And it's got a poster here, look. A poster that says beware. It's warning people. Don't go off the path because there's a big bad wolf around. Little Red skipped along the path unaware the wolf was secretly watching him. He would make a tasty snack, the wolf said to himself, drooling at the thought. Oh no! The wolf has spotted him and he's drooling, thinking, yum, yum, I could just munch up that Little Red. Suddenly, Little Red stopped and called out excitedly, red apples! I'll have to take some for Grandma. Overhearing this, the wolf thought, so Grandma is waiting for him, is she? Perhaps I can have myself 2 tasty snacks instead of just one. Who else is he going to eat? I think he's planning on eating Grandma as well. Silly Little Red, he's got distracted by the red apples, hasn't he? Here's Little Red. Meanwhile, Little Red was trying to reach the apples. There was a large prickly bush in his way. So to keep his coat from being torn, he took it off and placed it on a nearby rock. This gave the wolf an idea. Grabbing the coat, he charged off at a terrific pace to Grandma's house. So there's the coat, and the wolf has taken it and ran off towards Grandma's house. What do you think the plan might be? Reaching Grandma's front door, the wolf stopped to squeeze himself into Little Red's coat, and he knocked on the door. Grandma, who was very, very short-sighted, that means she couldn't see very well, opened the door, saw the red jacket and said, "Come right in, Little Red. Why don't we have some ginger beer and a big slice of cake?" So there's the wolf, pretending to be Little Red, but because the grandma hadn't got very good sight and she needed glasses, He had tricked her. He was a master of disguise. He had disguised himself to look like someone else. He was pretending to be Little Red. What do you think his plan might be? Have a little think. What might his intentions be? But as soon as her back was turned, the wolf pounced on her, and in 1 second flat, he swallowed her whole. My goodness me, what a naughty, bad wolf. Now I'll disguise myself as Grandma to eat the boy for dessert. The wolf howled, marvelling at his brilliant plan. That means he was so impressed with himself. He stepped into one of Grandma's dresses and fixed one of her wigs behind his long furry ears. He closed the drapes tight, so he closed the curtains, sat on Grandma's table and waited eagerly for Little Red. Do you think he looks like Grandma? No, nor do I. What are the differences? What are the differences between the wolf and Grandma? For one, I don't think Grandma's got furry big ears, has she? Little Red arrived at Grandma's house out of breath from running. Grandma, he cried, my coat has been stolen. I only left it on the path for a second and it disappeared. Well, we all know where that went, don't we? When Grandma didn't rush out to greet him, Little Red began to worry. Are you there? He asked, stepping in to the darkened room. He's starting to think that's unusual. Grandma normally comes to greet me. I wonder where she is. Oh, Grandma, you look different. Are you feeling unwell? I'm fine, dear, said the wolf sweetly. Come closer. What do you think the Little Red is going to say to the wolf? Remember the story of Little Red Riding Hood? What questions did Little Red Riding Hood ask? Can you remember? Grandma, what big eyes you've got today, said Little Red, sitting down at the table. All the better to see you with, my dear, crooned the wolf. But what big ears you have, Grandma, Little Red said. All the better to hear you with, my darling, replied the wolf with a big toothy grin. And Grandma, what enormous teeth you have, Little Red exclaimed. What is going to happen? All the better to eat you with, roared the wolf. What? Cried Little Red. Don't eat me. You're my dessert, growled the wolf. Grandma was really delicious, but not quite enough to fill me up. You'll finish my meal quite nicely. Terrified? What does terrified mean? Really scared. Little Red looked around frantically for a way out. Then he remembered his basket and he had a brilliant idea. I wonder what his idea is going to be. Wait! I have something much, much tastier than me, shouted Little Red as he grabbed the keg of ginger beer from his basket. Tastier than you? Thundered the wolf. Snatching the bottle from Little Red's hand, the wolf guzzled down the whole lot of ginger beer. He drank enough for an entire week in one greedy gulp. Almost immediately, the wolf's belly began to rumble and grumble loudly. That greedy wolf has had too much. Serves him right. Uh-oh, what's going to happen now? His belly's all full of fizzy ginger beer. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, the wolf howled. Then suddenly he let out an enormous burp. Burp! And out flew Grandma! From his mouth, the gigantic burp blew Grandma straight out. What a rude, disgusting wolf. He is certainly not showing the value of courtesy and using his Nishkam manners, is he? How very rude. As the wolf tottered backwards, groaning. Oh! Little Red grabbed the empty keg of ginger beer and threw it at the wolf's head. Tink! Knocking him out cold. Then he quickly tied a pair of Grandma's thick woolly stockings tightly around the wolf's paws. The wolf awoke with a nasty bump on his head. My poor head, he moaned. Eating Grandma is becoming much too dangerous, and that ginger beer was far tastier than Grandma anyway. That gave Little Red an idea. He said, if you promise never ever to eat anyone ever again, I'll let you go and make sure you have all the ginger beer you could ever want. That's very kind of Little Red. He's starting to try and think of a plan to get rid of that awful wolf, isn't he? So the wolf readily agreed. So from then on, each week on his way to Grandma's, Little Red left a keg of ginger beer in the forest for the wolf, who drank it down eagerly in spite of the embarrassing after effects. What are those embarrassing after effects? What happened to that naughty wolf when he drank too much? He did stinky, ginormous, gruesome burps, didn't he? How very rude. But at least he didn't go around eating any more people. That was a fun story. How was it different to Little Red Riding Hood? Did Little Red Riding Hood take Grandma ginger beer? No, I thought she took some fresh cookies. Did the wolf burp the Grandma out in Little Red Riding Hood? No, there's lots of different tales. Sometimes the woodcutter came along, didn't he? And he chopped the wolf out of her belly. But this one's a little bit different. Did you enjoy it? I certainly did. Thank you for listening. You've done really, really well. Have a little think about that story. Maybe you could draw some pictures and plot the story out, or have a chat with a grown-up about what happened, because I'm sure you found it amusing. Thank you, everyone. See you soon. Bye.